Hmm. Am I audible? Someone to confirm? Okay, fantastic. All right. So thank you so much for joining this meeting. It's going to be an interesting one. I hope for those of you that were able to join last week, hope you started working on your kind of essay did we look at last time? The course choice essay and global challenge. Hope you started working on that. If you have not, I urge you to watch the recording of the previous meeting. It's available on my YouTube channel to give you some insights that will be helpful and that will distinguish you from the rest of the pack. Um, I also hope you've started working on your overall applications. You've managed to open an account on the portal and you've started filling in the demographic data, reaching out to your referees. Again, if you've not, there's a little bit of a change in the application regarding referees now. So I urge you to check it out so that you can get in touch with your referees. If you would like to know or would like to know how to get recommendation letters that are powerful recommendation letters that will set you apart. I did a session. If you've not seen that, head over to my YouTube channel and um, watch it and implement some of the strategies that I taught. Hopefully, those will be able to distinguish you from the pack. Excuse me. So today we are looking at the relationship building and influence chevening essay. Um, for the number of applications that I review, this is one of the weakest essay that I get to read because people do not know what chevening is looking for. In the past, the instructions were a bit vague, but I'm so happy that this time around the instructions are okay. And hopefully, they're a little bit simpler and easy to understand. And many people will be able to put in an application, an essay, which is better than what I used to see last year. Okay, so in case you don't know, there are four essays that you need to write. Each is a maximum of 300 words. Of course, that is a difference that Chevening has introduced for this academic year. In the past, you had a maximum of 500 words to work with, but now you're only required to go up to 300 words. So the four essays as follows. The first one is the leadership experience. The next one is the relationship building and influence. There's a course choice and global challenge. And finally, the career plan and impact. So we've already done the course choice and global challenge. And today we'll be looking at the relationship building and influence essay. So as I said, Chevening, this is a screenshot from the website. Chevening has made a bit of changes to the application. And what they are looking for this time around in the new and updated essay questions is a stronger focus of how your course and university choices connect to global priorities. And of course, these are the priorities: promoting growth and prosperity, building resilience in a climate vulnerable world, strengthening security and stability in a volatile world, and supporting development for more inclusive and effective societies. And as I've said, there's been a reduction from 500 words to 300 words. So some of you might have applied for Chevening many times. Some of you might have even gotten to the interview stage. Some of you, this is your first time. especially for those that have old essays that you would maybe want to refine for this application cycle. I want you to take note that this question, the networking question, has changed a little bit. So in the past, this was the question. Chevening is looking for individuals with strong professional relationship building skills who will engage with the Chevening community and influence and lead others in their chosen profession. Please explain how you build and maintain relationships in a professional capacity using clear examples of how you currently do this and outline how you hope to use these skills in the future. So as you can see, it wasn't very vague. It was pretty standard, but it was a little bit confusing and people didn't know exactly what to write. But I like the direction that they've taken this year, and I hope to show you going further. But here's a bit of guidance that they have provided on the website. So I think do you have good examples of building professional relationships to achieve positive outcomes? That's the question, and this is now the guidance. So basically, they are saying effective leaders are good at building relationships. If you are awarded a Chevening scholarship, there will be plenty of opportunities to connect with other leaders in your field. So that is very important. They know that as a Chevening scholar, you have a lot of opportunities. Fellow Chevening students with faculty, with many other people in the UK, and it's an opportunity. So they are looking for people that already have skills to build those relationships and harness them. So they're saying we are looking for examples of how you have built strong relationships and how collaboration led to real measurable outcomes. Now, I think this is the meat of the essay, the measurable outcomes. Are you able to demonstrate in your essays that what you've done or from your relationship that you built, you are able to achieve some sort of outcome which can be measured? And this is something that you should take into your essays, because if you look at the questions that they ask, it doesn't speak about the measurable outcomes more, but here in the guidance, it's showing that you need to talk about the measurable outcomes. So this is what they are looking at. I think this is the meat of this the relationship building and influence essay. So if you've already opened your account, if you head over to your account, you'll see that this is how the question has been phrased. So firstly, it says, tell us about a professional relationship you have built and maintained. So in the past, it was vague. You didn't know whether it was one they were looking for or maybe multiple. But here they are very clear. Tell us about a professional relationship. So this should be something that you need to put a lot of thought into, because they're not asking for multiple examples. They're asking for a single example. Okay. And once you coin this example, you need to talk about, I mean, the relationship you've built and maintained. So it has to be very specific. And it goes on to break it down a little bit more. So now you've told us about this relationship. How was the relationship formed? They're interested to know how it was formed and what made it important. So the first bullet point has got two parts. How was it formed? So you can talk about how it was formed, where you met, or what led to the formation of that relationship, or introduced, or did you actively reach out, whatever, how it was formed, and what made it important. So here, when it says what made it important, that is feeding into the influence part. Now, why was this important? And this is where you should be thinking of now, what outcome can I attach to this part of the statement that shows exactly what the relationship led to. It goes on to say, what did you contribute to this relationship and what did you gain? So you can talk about what you contributed and what you gained. And the high yield note for you here is, if you talk about what you gain, it is even more powerful if you talk about how your community gained from this relationship. So rather than being personal and selfish, take an approach that looks at the outcome on the community, the outcome on the people that you have influence over. How did they benefit from this relationship? So don't try to be too personal here. Although it's asking you it's asking you to be asking what you gained from this relationship. But here you need to be very careful and do a give and take. What did you gain? And most importantly, what did the other party gain from this particular relationship that you've built? And I think this is where a lot of essays fail. Instead of talking about what was the influence on their community, what was the social impact as a result of this relationship, they'll talk about themselves. So me, this happened, this, that, what, that is not powerful. But if you can use this portion looking at what did the community gain, the people that you have influence over, or the people in your community, what did they gain? If you're able to demonstrate that, I think you get more, your essays will be looked at more favorably. And then after you have this relationship, how have you sustained or developed this relationship over time? How have you developed this relationship over time? I think when I was reading this, I actually thought maybe that's one of the reasons why you know, Chevening is looking at people that have experience of at least 2 years post graduation, because they want to see whatever relationship you've built most of our formative years, you don't really do a lot of impactful things. But once you graduate from university, once you start working, that's when you get to start building those serious relationship or this. That's when you start having a bit of impact. Of course, there are always outliers, people that do great things even when they are young. But here, you need to show over time, and I think. If you could demonstrate that this relationship has been going on for some time, there isn't a rule of how much time this relationship should be, but I think it should be around that ballpark of around 2 years or so, or even more. More is better. Of course, it can be a year as well, but then in a year it's difficult to show sustenance, how you've sustained it. But if you could talk about years, 5 years, you've had this relationship and you've gotten um, um, some value from this relationship, I think that would be good to note. So choose your example wisely. Something that speaks to a little bit more time might be more impactful because it will show that you've actually sustained the relationship over a period of time. So that shows sustenance. And how will these skills help you build connections within the Chevening community and beyond? So basically, they're asking about how you form your relationship. What are your skills, and how do you sustain this relationship? What are you going to use? How are you going to use these skills with the Chevening community and beyond? So this one is pretty much straightforward. So minimum of 100 words, maximum of 300 words. But I'll tell you, if you are to fit in everything that is being requested of you, you'll be struggling. You'll actually struggle to fit into 300 words. But it's doable. It's doable. But if you put all these things that they're asking for, you'll be able to get a good essay. Now, some people will read this just once and just try to um, write an essay. I've always guided. These things should guide you. So these are potentially paragraphs on their own. If it's easy, if you can respond to each bullet point in a sentence, how was the relationship formed? Or it was formed at this school with this person when I was doing this and that. Why was it important? This relationship led us to us doing this collaborative thing or doing this important thing that ended up benefiting my community than the first part. What did you contribute to this relationship? Or this person was this, for instance, this specialty, was an expert in this. I was an expert in data analysis and data whatever. I was able to bring, we're able to work together to do this. So respond to each prompt because believe you me, when they are grading your essays, they'll be looking at every prompt. Have you looked at every prompt? And as I've said here, you see where in the guidance they talked about what made this relationship important. Here they're asking about what made this relationship important. But if you look at the guidance, they're actually asking for what was a measurable outcome. So I found that interesting because here it's not clearly um, listed. They're saying a little bit, what did you gain from this? But if you look at the guidance, they're actually looking for a measurable outcome. So you should be able to measure what came out of this relationship. And if you don't have such an example, tough luck. So let's break down the prompts. I mean, word, not word by word, but sentence by sentence. So the first one, tell us about a professional relationship you've built and maintained. This could be a sentence. How was the relationship formed and what made it important? Here again, you can try to add some measurable outcome here. Or what did you contribute to this relationship and what did you gain? That measurable outcome can also come in point number 3. How have you sustained or developed this relationship over time? As I've said, there isn't a rule about how much time, but obviously, the longer the time period, the more you demonstrate your sustenance and how will the skills help you to build connections with the Chevening community. So let's start with the first one. The professional relationship you built. So here, basically, you need to talk about who the person was, and why that person matters. So was it a professor at a university? Was it a politician that you met, or was it the CEO of an organization? Give the context. Where did you meet them, and where do you to show where the relationship developed? So this is a simple but very interesting essay statement that shows you that sets the stage for what is coming. So here you talk about the person that you met, where you met them, what was the context. As a student at this university, I worked with the professor on this and this and that, and then from this relationship, this is what happened. You kind of summarize the entire essay in the first 3 sentences. From there, you it says how was the relationship informed, how was the relationship formed, and what made it important. So you give now a little bit of context. Was it at the workplace? Was it a conference? Was it a project? Was it a mentorship? Was it a partnership? You just have to talk about where you met. And if you don't, it will be difficult for the assessors to understand. And state why this relationship mattered, achieving an impactful goal or advancing a cause. As I've said, here is where you try to demonstrate some sort of measurable outcome. What was the goal that you achieved as a result of this relationship? And as they have said, I keep on talking about this. There has to be a measurable outcome that you can be able to demonstrate. The more you have the numbers, the better. And then again, keep it professional, not personal. I know there is a part that is asking for what did you gain, but if you make it more about what was the impact of that relationship, not what you personally gained, if you can show some sort of selflessness in this essay, then this will go a long way. So, what did you contribute to this relationship, and what did you gain? So, it's very important to show reciprocity, not just a one-sided thing. As I've said, talking about yourself and what you just gained is not very good for your essay. You can talk about what the other person gained, as a result of being in this relationship with you, or what a third party gained from this relationship. And that third party can be, you know, your community. So let me just give a brief example. You can say you met, for instance, a CEO of I don't know, some company. You told them about your people, your community having no money, so you are fundraising to build a borehole or something to bring water to the community. And because of that relationship, you were able to facilitate that. You got a ball, the community benefited. And that's more impactful than you saying, as a result of me being in a relationship with this CEO of this company, I got a job at this company because it was easy through the networks. I got the job. Yeah, you got a job. That's good. But if you talk about, I brought water to the community as a result of this relationship, 5,000 people are maybe 500 families are benefiting from this well that we ended up digging as a result of this relationship. That is more impactful than just you personally, benefiting. So highlight your active role. What was your role? Were you the person that initiated the effort, or sometimes there's no initiator, you're brought together by a third party? What was your effort? And I reached out, I requested for a coffee meeting. We had a meeting, several meetings. This person said they could do this, but they needed quotations for this borehole. They needed to know how much it would cost. So I ran around, and this what you know. When I got that information, I reached out. We had another meeting, and it told me to wait for so many months. I waited again, reached out. Time had come. No, the person was busy. You see, you are showing the efforts that you are doing, and also your skills. Okay, are you communicating over? How are you communicating? This maybe the person you're talking about was a busy person, or how did you communicate? Did you reach out? Did you travel? What made your, basically, you talk about your skills and your efforts and the value you added, If you say, okay, this person wanted to build a borehole for my community, and I was running around, I was doing all the logistics work, and this guy was just a funder, or was funding the activity, and basically community benefited. So you explain what you gained. So of course, it could be knowledge, it could be more opportunities, mentorship, it could be exposure, collaboration, or just the network itself that you build. So you can choose whichever it is. But as I said, the more you show your selflessness, I think it's not written anywhere. This is what I believe, and that's what I encourage my mentees. Look at how you can demonstrate a wider impact or on a community than what you personally gained. So as I said, explain what the other person gained. What is it that, if you can, the person that you're benefiting from, you don't want to be like a parasite just milking the other person, but what did the other person benefit from you? Was it like a symbiotic relationship? Sure, if you could demonstrate that, how they benefited from this relationship, then the better, right? Then balance is key, as I've said. You can be a giver, and also a learner, but also not just a leacher, just benefiting from the relationship while the other person is not. And it can be difficult, especially if you look at the gradient of the relationship. Let me give you an example. If, let's say, um, your relationship is the president, let me give this weird example. Your relationship with so the gradient of power is quite steep there, and you may benefit in many ways by knowing who the president is and having a personal relationship with him, but they may not gain much from you unless you're something like a campaign manager who's going to help them win elections in your constituency or something. That shows that there's at least a two-way thing. So look at your relationships carefully and think about these things. Try to demonstrate that you're not just taking, but you're also giving. But if you could even show that it is not just you benefiting personally, but your community benefiting, the better. Okay. So, how have you sustained or developed this relationship over time? Yeah, exactly. This is why I was saying this really is looking at time. And the longer the time that you've managed to sustain a relationship, the better. And demonstrate in your essay. Don't just say, I've known this person for the past 10 years. But in your essay, the impact you're showing is over a different period. I think they'll be looking at that. So try to be very careful and be very truthful over this essay. What was the time period? If you met at school when you're a student in your first year or whichever, then what happened and how was this relationship? But again, to be difficult if a relationship was just idle over time and then you say we started working on things. You have to demonstrate how you kept this relationship in touch. Especially if you're going to be talking about people that taught you in the at uni in your first year. If you're a medical doctor, you're now like you've completed school. Takes you about 6, 7 years to do that, and you're saying your relationship started in first year. Yeah, yeah. If you're not being very realistic, your essay will be tossed. So try to account for the period of time that you're able to show a little bit some impact. And it's good to talk about if there was an idle point in the relationship. So we met and then we lost contact, but continued our relationship over this uh, so many years ago. And this is what we ended up doing. And you show how you keep your relationship. Say, but be very realistic. Sometimes maybe you reach out, maybe once in a while, once a month, or maybe once every quarter. Like personally, I've made it a point, like with my referees, that some of the people that have been so impactful in my life, every quarter, I even have a calendar reminder. At the beginning of every quarter or so, I reach out, just find out how they're doing, what they're working on. Fun fact, my one of my referees from the London School of Economics and Political Science, through these same meetings of reaching out, just trying to maintain this relationship, actually told me, you know what, I'll be coming to Zambia on this day. It's a fantastic. I traveled from my town just to meet my referee, who's, I mean, professor and something. She was doing a project that is completely not in my field, but yeah, we met, had some tea, and our relationship is stronger ever since. And every time she comes there, she's got like a 5-year project. She comes to Zambia. Every time she's coming, she gives me a heads up. I'll be coming. I'll be going to this province. What should I look out for? What are some of the things I should, what should I do? And I'm able to guide, advise, where I'm able to facilitate some logistics on her behalf. I'm able to do that. And it's because of that the relationship is stronger. It's been going strong since I left LSC in 2020. This is like 5 years going from that. So if you're being truthful and you have used some skills to maintain a relationship, especially with a busy person like a professor who sees like hundreds of students every year, for you to stand out and to maintain that relationship, that's something that if you are doing that, you can touch on. But if not, be very difficult to convince the team. But it doesn't have to be a professor from university. It can be someone from which, as I've said, you benefited and you're able to demonstrate a measurable outcome. Okay. And then show how the your adaptability as the relationship was growing and changing. So maybe the person you're talking about was your lecturer and you're a student, but now you're not in that relationship anymore. You're no longer a student. You're just something else. You're something else, something more. Could it be someone was your boss and you were their junior, but now maybe you're at the same level? Now these things happen. You people that were ahead of you, you're now at the same level. Maybe people that were below you are now above you. That is also important. You can also talk about that relationship also. And then how have you adapted the relationship as it's changing? So show that and prove some sort of consistency if you have consistency, which I mean, we live in a world where everyone is busy and people do their own things. Have you ever received a text from someone you're like, wow, this person saying hi in my inbox has not been in touch in the past 3 years? Then you talk about a bit and then they throw in, ask for a favor. I've seen that you're working for this organization. Do you have any openings? I'm like, come on, right? There's no consistency there, you know? So that's why I say for you ambitious scholars that want to benefit from some relationships with people, especially people that you look at to be your referees or people that you you look out, especially the referees, I think I would say be in contact, be in touch with them, show interest in what they're doing. If you don't make it this year and you've got such, build the relationships. So next year comes, at least you would have had at least a year of working on this relationship. Um, so that you get to a point where it's natural for you to ask a favor. It's everything flows. There isn't a lot of um, animosity or there isn't a lot of barriers. Okay. So how will these skills help you build connections within the Chevening community and beyond? This is how you demonstrate transferable skills, how you build, how you're going to do it with the community, who you expect to meet. You need to have some expectations, who you're going to meet in the UK, and who you're going to meet when you come back. That is very important to meet. And if possible, it's even advisable, even wise to talk about some of the the Chevening community. Have you been interacting with almost every country that I know has a Chevening community, people that have graduated, they have an organization. During this time, you see them going around radio stations and doing activities, trying to encourage people to apply. They have get together. You, how have you, how have you interacted with that community? Last year, one of my mentee actually I think wrote about how they even heard about Chevening from the Chevening community, how they attended some activities and they were impressed, and they actually talked about how they wanted to be part of the community, part of that organization, be very active, not just a, a, a participant, but be active, seek a leadership role in that community. That was something great in my opinion. So if you can show what you would want to gain from that relationship and from the community. And it's funny, when I applied for the Mandela Washington Fellowship, during the interviews there was a similar question which I answered in a weird way, but thank God I went through. They asked me how what was the question again? It was about how what did I expect to learn from like the fellows, the my fellow Mandela Washington fellows from the who I was going to meet over there in the UK, in the US. And I was very frank with them. I say, you know what? At the moment, I do not know, but I was able to back it up. Say, I also participated in the Young African Leaders Initiative, the YALI in South Africa. I didn't know what to expect there, but when I got to that place, I met fellows with a whole lot of um, skills and interests, and then I identified two or three that um, had similar interests as mine, and we've been working together ever since. And I was able to demonstrate the kind of things I was working on with those colleagues. But it's up to you. You have to be very expectant of what you need, what you would like to learn from the Chevening community. A former or current Chevening scholar may be a good source of information for this. While you're in the UK, there are certain events that happen there, things that take place even when you come back after you're done. There are events, activities that take place. If you could show knowledge of what those are and how you expect to contribute to those activities, then you stand a better chance of getting the scholarship and acing this essay. So basically, show how you apply these skills to contribute to the global alumni network or in your country. It doesn't matter, but just show that you're able to transfer some of these skills. Okay, so a little bit of a structure. If I was to do this essay, I wanted to give an example of an other essay that we've adapted to this, but I realized that it's quite the instructions are very different, and what we used to write in the past is a little bit different. So I'm going to talk about myself. If I was to do this essay, what I would talk about. So I'll go straight to the point. Briefly introduce the professional relationship. So I would say about the professional relationship of Dr. Professor this one or Professor this person. And then the example I'm using is the person I met in the US, right, during the Mandela Washington Fellowship. I built a professional relationship with Dr. Gilma Tefera at the University of Wisconsin when I participated in the Mandela Washington Fellowship. This relationship led us to collaborating on a project which allowed medical students from the US to come to my facility here in Zambia to offer some services. Simple. Talked about what the relationship is, who I met, and where we met, and who he is, and what led to that relationship. Why it matters for this relationship, I get more medical help that particularly helps my community. Explain how you met. Of course, I've already talked about, but then I can now here give it a little bit more context. As a Mandela Washington Fellow, I was partnered with certain leaders in their communities or whatever at this hospital. I met this gentleman who is of Ethiopian origin, now practicing in the US, who has a program which sends US medical students to Ethiopia to help communities in need. Okay? I come from a community where we don't have medical doctors. Maybe I'm the only one medical doctor at my facility, or we are two or three catering for a community of so many. It's very difficult to attend to all and provide the quality care. But with this program, we're able to get extra helping hands from these I said medical student medical students. It was residents, like medical doctors, doing their residencies in the US. Okay, what do you bring to this relationship? I brought the knowledge and the skills, not really the skills, but the capacity and the logistical knowledge of how to make this work. Asked what it would entail for the teams to be coming. There were some regulatory things that needed to do. There was approval that you needed to get from the Health Professions Council of Zambia to allow non-medical doctors to practice in Zambia, and this and that logistical issues. I handled that. So what I brought to the relation. What did you learn or gain? No, you learned a lot of things, like some of the things I've talked about. How you get the logistics, how you get people from across, foreigners to practice in your country. That's all those things. And you make it balanced. What did you give and what did you receive? So what am I saying? This is what I did on my part. What did I receive? I received this medical help in terms of human resource. How have you maintained and developed it over time? I left the Mandela Washington Fellowship. We built this relationship. I've maintained it for the past 5 years after the fellowship. What is it that um, How have you maintained the relationship? Although I've left the facility now, I don't practice at my former facility, but I've still I still participate in the organization of this transfer of students from one place to the other, blah 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 blah. Okay, and then regular contact. Every time when it comes to the students, I meet up and we talk about how best we can expand this to maybe more facilities and what have you. How it evolved over time, by then it doesn't really evolve because it's a similar relationship, kind of. He's a person, medical doctor, big person working in this facility, and is able, as a director of his program, is able to ensure that residents are able to come and offer this. And then you talk about the impact. Because of this, we've seen reduction, whatever, whatever, whatever. So you have so many cases, we need to refer so many kilometers to the specialist, but now they're being handled at the facility, and this is what my community has developed. Okay? I didn't do this specific thing, but I know a Mandela Washington fellow who did something like this from from um, from the time that we were there. So if I had done something similar, that's the example that I would do. So it's a very simple essay, shows you what you did, shows what the relationship is, shows you the skills you brought to the relationship, how you've sustained it over time, and whether it has evolved or not. And most importantly, you demonstrate your the impact on your community. Link the skills you've demonstrated to Chevening. Of course, how do you apply this to Chevening? So the skills, how you maintain the relationship, if you could talk about how you expect to do that with the Chevening network and beyond. And most importantly, Chevening has got this rule that once you do Chevening, you're supposed to return for at least 2 years. Is it 2 years or 5 years? I forget. I think you need to you return. You don't stay in the UK. So this is where you have to demonstrate that you're actually looking to coming back to your country. So when I return, I want to join this. I don't know what the chevening network here in Zambia is called, or in your country what it might be called. But you talk about what specific thing you'd want to do. If you could even mention one or two. Um, and then that will be the end of your essay. Very simple essay to do. The instructions are a little bit vague, but they were vague last year. Now I think they are very clear. And once you go through the questions and respond to them and show a little bit of impact, show some measurable outcomes that they can measure, if they would like to do that, then I think this will be a standout essay for you. At this point, I'll ask if there are any questions. Um, we can start with those in the chat box, and then we can get those that are able to ask. All right. Nicole says, in mentioning the people, person you've built a relationship, do you have to mention their name? Yes, absolutely. Mention their name. Mention their name. Let it not be an abstract person. Mention their name. And fun fact, they may check on this person just to see. I'm not saying they will reach out to the person, but if it's somebody that they can reach out, they can check on LinkedIn or in some other professional thing. If it's a professional person, they may check on this person. So you absolutely need to mention their name. It's very important that you mention their name, specifically who they are, not just their name, what they do, what is their role in this relationship that you're talking about. Asma says, what if we post both personal and community benefits from the particular person? Even better, even better. Talk about the personal benefits, talk about the community benefits, but talk more about the community benefits than your personal benefits. That will carry a more stronger message than just talking about personal benefits. I don't think you can talk about both in equal measure because you don't have enough word count. If you try to do this essay, respond to every prompt, you just see how much you could have needed your 500 words. This is, yeah, 300 words is seems not to be enough, but you can. So you need to prioritize one. If you can prioritize what the benefit was to the community better than what it was to you. Can you talk about a professional relationship with a coworker? Absolutely, you can. The relationship is not, you know, as long as you're able to demonstrate that from this thing there was a measurable outcome and how you've built it over time. I think you can use a coworker. There is no problem. It doesn't have to be someone bigger. It doesn't have to be someone outside your organization. It can be someone in your organization. um, where you've built this, and if you're able to demonstrate that professional outcome, even better. But be careful to choose a relationship which has not been forced on you. And let me give an example, right? Let's say you've joined an organization, you're a junior, and you're reporting to a person who's your supervisor, for instance. Okay. Uh, Technically, you can't say you've built that relationship. It's a professional, you have a professional relationship, but uh, that relationship has been forced on you, if I can use that word. That relationship is existing as a result because you are working in this organization where you're reporting to this person as your co-worker. So it's not something that you've gone out of your way to build. Okay, it's not something that you've gone out of your way to build. So be very careful with that. How soon will you upload the video on YouTube? I take a week. I need to watch it at some point. Make sure I didn't say anything weird that can get me in trouble. If they said anything weird, get it edited a little bit, and then I'm able to post. So it depends on how soon I do that. After doing the video, yeah, sometimes it takes time for me to go back to the video to rewatch it, but I do that just to make sure I don't say anything that will put me in trouble. And if I do, edit it out and then I'm able to put it on YouTube. So I've given myself a timeline of 7 days. So it might be online next week on Tuesday. By next week on Tuesday, that's the timeline I've given myself. I will say, so you suggest we talk briefly about the relationship and its value in the introduction and then in detail in the body part. Yes, that's exactly what I said. You try to show what it is in a nutshell to hook the reader, basically. You want the reader to be interested in this relationship. And if you give like a brief summary, I built a relationship with this person and together we achieved this remarkable goal. 2 sentences. Okay, so built with this person and they did this goal. Now, let me read on. How did this happen? So how did you meet? No, we met at this place, blah, 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 blah. What did you do to bring about this relationship? What was your active role? What did you do? But the first part is you hook the reader. That's something that I rarely talk about here, but writing is a skill, and you need to, as much as possible, hook your reader so that they don't get lazy. Have you ever read something? You are reading, but you're not really understanding because maybe it's so boring. Right? Have you ever done that? You don't want your reader to read it, and then at the end of the day, they're like, "Oh, what did I just read?" They don't even remember. Especially if they're reading, thousands and thousands of essays. It gets to a point where you get to be fatigued, right? If I can bring back what happened last academic year, over 100,000 people applying for Chevening. Even Chevening was shocked that they had to make serious changes to the application now. just to limit the number. So imagine maybe, I don't know how many people read the reading committees, how many they are, but you can imagine each person had a substantial amount of things to go through. And if the person has got a lot, it's difficult. Now I can talk about this now that it's a little bit not clear the direction they're taking. So I used to be a reviewer for the Mandela Washington Fellowship um, essays officially at the embassy. So just reading those essays, you'd see just how people do not follow the instructions and how people do not read the prompts that have been given. So when you're looking at an essay, you mark it against the prompts that they've been given. So if the essay is saying talk about how you met this person, if you don't talk about how you met that person, you lose points. Okay, if they're asking you for a measurable outcome, if you don't give a measurable outcome, you lose points. And after reading the application, you will do two things. Is this person going to the recycle bin? Or is this person proceeding to the next part? Or is this person strongly proceeding to the next part because they've just done such a good job? There are those things. And most of the times you find people that are done a good job but not an excellent job being left out. Because at the end of the day, out of 100,000 people or less than 2,000 positions, you know, it's difficult. It's difficult to make it. Your percentage is 2%, less than 2% chances. It's difficult. You need to go above and beyond. All right. Kilala says, can I use an initiative I conducted with a group of colleagues in a community for this essay? Not sure about that, unless I was to see the initiative and the colleagues. But it's more powerful if you talk about a person. So in that initiative, who was a key person, or if you were a key person, who else assisted you, did most of the work, what you did in a community. It's fine. The only thing is just respond, make sure you respond to what they're asking for. Can the person you mentioned in this essay also become someone who is also your referee for the recommendation later? Absolutely, you can do that. You can do that. So you have no idea how many times I've mentioned my referees in my application for various things because I work with them. These are people that have built serious relationships with that I can look at, and some of these are professional. So if you can, yes, go ahead and do that. Um, um, and if they're also able to provide you with a recommendation, there's no problem. But it even gives strength to the application. What if the relationship you've built over time is a mentorship relationship where you're the mentor and you're the mentee? Yes, as I've said, a relationship doesn't have to be one-sided. It doesn't have to be a relationship where the gradient you're at the bottom and the person you're relating to is at the top. It can be the other way around. As long as from this relationship you're able to get some measurable outcomes that you can speak to. And as I've said, the bigger the impact of your outcomes, the better. Okay. I have another question in my example. The impact is research project done successfully, which the hospital kept a copy of, and it can be used in a way to help our healthcare system in using our resources in a smart way to tackle the health challenges we are facing. Oh, you said a lot of words, but not so much of. If you could point to, have they used it? You've done this research, then maybe this is one of the things maybe you can talk about if you learned some research skills or something that you didn't have. Um, Impact, when was the research done? Uh, I'll be cautious to use words like impact, which you can't see after some time, like maybe 2 or 3 years. If they kept the copy, are they using it? Have they introduced some uh, things from your research? And what have you done to ensure that actually they've improved implemented some of the changes that I mean things that you recommended in your research? So you can always try to play with words and make it seem that they actually did um, there was some impact of some sort. Okay. All right. I think I've responded to that. Now, if you have a question that you would like to ask, feel free to unmute and come online. Yes. I'll give it 5 minutes. If you have a question you'd like to unmute, I mean, you'd like to ask, please unmute and come online. Okay. Yes, Raleigh, please go ahead.
Thank you so much, Dr. Chimba, for the opportunity, and really appreciate this initiative that you have come up with just to empower us with the necessary knowledge and tips on how to go about application of these prestigious scholarships. Yeah, my question is on the essays, the different type of essays, and the examples that we have to bring to qualify our expertise or experience. One with the leadership essay. I don't know the nomenclature right now, and also the networking essay. Does it have to be the same work experience? And in the same work experience, you have to find examples of how you did networking. And also, when you talk about leadership, again, you have to find examples that are related to the same work experience, or it can be different experiences as long as you are just showcasing how you showed your leadership skills and how you showed your networking skills, or it has to be consistent in all the essays. The subject matter should be the same, but with different examples. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Raleigh. That's a very good question. If I remember from the previous years, I think one of the instructions was they would even say, do not use the examples that you've used on, I think it was a networking essay. They would say, don't use the examples that you've used on this, is it a leadership essay or I don't know. So because that was a problem, people would try to reuse the same examples and it wouldn't really give a lot of credence to the to to the essays. It's like you completely just copied the essays that you included in your leadership and used it on the networking. So you have to be very careful because since you're working in the same, in the same, you're working in a similar field or in one field, your essays can be the same. Okay. And not, I mean, not the same. The theme of the application can be the same because you're working on something like that, but the examples need to be different. Uh, because they used to emphasize it in the previous essays, I would say the essays need to be different. Absolutely, they need to be different. But the theme can be the same. Okay? Um, what I mean by the theme, after reading all your four essays, the person that is done with reading your essay should have at least one word to describe you, or in 2 words, they should be able to describe who you are after reading your essays. Okay? Uh, Let me give an example. There was a person, um, a biomedical scientist, who applied last year. Their theme was infectious diseases, infectious diseases, infectious diseases. That was the theme. Even the course they applied for was infectious diseases. Okay? So at the end of the day, whatever examples you use, they can be different, but they should be pointing to a similar theme so that at the end of the day, they remember you as this person. Let me tell you examples that we see. In the first essay, someone is talking about infectious diseases. In the second essay, somebody is talking about their entrepreneurship, completely different from the first thing they talked about. Okay. And then at the end of the day, even the person reviewing your essays is a bit confused. Like, who is this person about? Yeah, all over. You are not consistent. Okay. So you may be doing a lot of different things in life. You may be a professional. You may have a thriving business. You may have some NGO thing that you want to talk about. But at the end of the day, try to find what is common across those things. I saw that a lot with the Mandela Washington Fellowship. There are different tracks there. Find someone is applied to the public management track, but they'll talk about all sorts of things. What they're doing in their job, they will talk about their civic organization. In one essay, they're talking about their business. At the end of the day, you don't. So this person belongs where? Even if they've applied to this in this tract, where are they? So don't confuse the reviewer. You may talk about things, but try as much as possible to make them similar. Let, let your application have a theme. And your theme is your one word. What is your one word? There's a book called Your One Word that if you have time you can read. At the end of the day, after reading your essays, a person should be able to describe you in one word or in a phrase. Okay, this is the Korea person. So it's talking about Korea in all the essays, referring them to one central point. Which course are they applying for? Infectious disease, or makes sense. Cholera is an infectious disease, you see, like that. But the examples, please, it shouldn't be the same things that you just move from one essay to the other. They've not talked about it here in the essays, but previously, that was something that they clearly cautioned. Do not use the same example that you used in this first essay. So I would say, please try to find a different example, but they should be related in a way to your theme. What are you known for? What are you applying for? I hope that is clear, Riley.
Thank you so much, Doc, for the valuable insights that you have given. I really appreciate.
You're welcome. Is there any other question before we close? Okay. All right. I don't see any fresh questions. Today we'll end a little bit early. We always go up to 7 p.m., but today 6:36 is fine. I
Just a quick
appreciate.
one, Doc, before you go.
Yes, Riley.
Did you share the video for the previous meeting,
Yes, I did.
the
I
first
think
one for?
I shared it yesterday. Yes, I did.
Where is it on LinkedIn or on YouTube?
It's on YouTube, on my YouTube page.
Oh, all right. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much for everyone who attended this meeting. I hope it was valuable. If you found this meeting interesting and valuable, I would appreciate if you can post in the group, and whoever will make the best post will get a free essay review for the networking essays. Somebody did that last time. I appreciated, and they got that one essay review. So if you can post, summarize this meeting, what you learned, please post. I'll appreciate that. Again, if you're not following me on LinkedIn, do follow me on LinkedIn, and I'll see you in the group. Bye bye.
Bye bye. Thank you.